morning. Good morning, everybody. So yes, indeed, the price is free. You can beat that. We won't take any returns, however. Social business is something that I have studied quite a bit over the years. And ask anybody, you'll get two people in the room, you'll get two different definitions. Three people, three different definitions. The way that I look at social business, well, it's a couple things. One is when a business is a productive member of society, depending on whether or not you're an optimist. Social business is also philosophy. It's a way of looking at the world. It's the way of changing how you approach business, how you approach markets. The idea of WTF is not just to get a smile. It was to remind each and every one of us that, yes, we have some hard things to deal with. We actually have to deal with a lot of politics. Change is something very powerful. It's very important. And the one thing about change is that while we try to change the landscape because of things like social, for example, change actually begins with ourselves. Everybody wants to bring about change, but nobody wants to realize that change starts with us. The idea of social business is recognizing that how we look at the world, how we look at markets, how we look at employees has to become more engaging, more interactive. In a world where we are connected, or maybe we're over-connected, maybe we're over-sharing, we are connected by the experiences that we have and the experiences that we share. In this world, then, those collective experiences become the collective of who you are based on, for example, Twitter search or Facebook graph search. What comes back in that window is sort of this collective response of who you are. I think as Jeff Bezos once said, your brand is what people say when you're not in the room. What social business entails is more than marketing. Yet, when you hear the word social, when you ask businesses, where does social live within the organization, it's going to be in marketing communications, or public relations. When in fact, it's like saying email. Where does email live within your organization? Everywhere, because you use it to communicate, to do things more effectively. And in a world of marketing, we get really excited when something cool happens. So for example, this year at the Super Bowl, when Oreo sent that tweet about dunking in the dark, everybody went crazy. Oh, that was the best advertisement at the Super Bowl. It didn't even cost them millions of dollars. It was fantastic. It was what everybody was talking about. I think it's what everybody in this industry was talking about. But it isn't social business, right? It is an aspect of it that's kind of cool. If you look at what drove it, right, it was the fact that the lights went out. So yeah, kind of epic moment. We should do something funny about it. And so when you have a world that's driven now by moments and trends and competing for attention so that you can get visibility within the stream, you start to realize there's something more to this. And what I took away from this aspect, this whole concept of real-time marketing and this movement towards social business, was that in that room, that one day, in order to get that image of dunking in the dark set, they had their advertising team, they had their public relations team, they had their brand manager, they had legal, they had everybody in a conference room working together in order to get that approved and published. When you look at what that room probably looked like on Monday morning, the blank screen is exactly what it was. There is no one in there because they moved on. It was just about competing for the moment. All of those people disbanded and went back to their usual routine. And in this era, that team is actually what's going to be representative of the foundation for social business in the future. And that future is now. It is important because it takes a multifunctional or a cross-functional group of folks in order to empower the organization to be social, not just to publish things in social networks. In a world where real-time marketing is grabbing the headlines of social media, you start to realize, is this the future, or is this just being trendy? We celebrate the simple things too much, and we put off the difficult things which we need to work on. I actually believe that we're all here together. This entire summit is founded in bringing people together who want to bring about change, but start with changing ourselves. And that takes looking at the world a bit differently, realizing that we're taking all of these fascinating tools today, all of these incredibly interactive channels, and we're doing what we've always done with them. We're pushing information at people. We have to get it approved. If you think about the things that we say, if you think about the things that go out into this editorial calendar that then gets published on social media, it's all written and approved for the people who sign our checks, not the people that we're actually trying to reach, not the people that we're trying to move or inspire. And as a result, there are blogs that track how we suck, which is fine. But that's why change begins with us, understanding that this is an opportunity to do and say things that matter, to build relationships and to build communities that are productive, that are meaningful, that mean something more than just belonging, but mean something where belonging actually matters. This change, this evolution, this movement towards social business is actually important. It's incredibly important because this idea of relevance is the future of business, the future of all that matters to the brand. Does your brand matter today because you are profitable, or does your brand or does your business matter today because it actually impacts the people that you're reaching, your customers, your employees? In a time where most of the employees have low morale, what is it that we're actually trying to do? Are we using this technology to perpetuate a problem, or are we using this technology to solve problems and to move our way back towards the center of relevance? One of the things that I loved about the Old Spice campaign is that, whether they knew this going into it or not, is that they made that brand relevant to a different market, right? In a market where Axe body spray is celebrated and Red Bull is the drink of choice, with or without vodka. This was my grandfather's brand. Never thought twice about it. Never thought I would use Old Spice. And these series of social advertisements, campaigns, actually made me consider Old Spice as a brand today. Who knew that men needed body wash? How you do. It's cool. The outcome of this was behavior change. It was a shift in perception of how you view this business. I thought it was powerful. It's also powerful in the sense that the idea of real-time marketing for Old Spice meant that their employees had something to rally behind as well. The community was internal and external. This idea of real-time marketing and the data around it then starts to show you that there are business outcomes tied to this. I published a report in March that found that in the high 80s, in terms of percentage, businesses were not aligning social media strategies with business objectives. They just weren't. They were measuring success by huge business KPIs like comments, views, tweets, shares. That's a problem, right? And that's a symptom of what happens when you run social media out of a group. We talk about how social media is going to break down silos, when in fact social media in of itself is actually in a silo. And then we want bigger budget for resources. We want bigger budget for technology investments. We need more people. And yet we're not actually making the business case for it. The idea of a social business is that it impacts every aspect of your organization, not just marketing. And it's not also just about talking at people. It's about listening. It's about hearing. It's about learning. It's about adapting. Because it impacts and touches and benefits every single aspect of your business. To me, the two most powerful elements of social is insight and empathy. When you look at how businesses, for example, are listening to social media conversations, what they tend to take away are things like sentiment. They publish a report. They give that to executives to say, this month our sentiment is negative at 25%. Last month it was negative at 30%. What does that mean? I don't know. It's better, though, than last month. Great. High fives. But what does it really mean? Why is there negative sentiment? In a world of shared experiences, where that sentiment is shared, it actually influences the impressions and perceptions of people. You have access to data. You have access to information now, not just to take that information and share it in its form of reports, but actually make it actionable to do something about it, to translate information into actionable outcomes or insights. Data isn't anything new, right? The thing that's interesting to me about social is that we can take and learn as much from bringing it inside as we can from using it to push outside. Most of the companies that I work with, we call them dust collectors. You probably have a name for them as well. Reports that just don't get seen. They're put in binders, they're put in shelves, they're in your inbox. They just never are used. That's a problem. And so here we're talking about big data. So this whole big data trend is huge. It's so big. It's incredible. But what are we doing about it? It is actually the foundation of which I think represents some very solid strategic decision-making moving forward. But businesses just really aren't prioritizing it. Anything that starts, say, from the social team may be doomed to forever be locked amongst the social team if the social team in of itself isn't trying to demonstrate itself as valuable to the greater organization. Tweets, retweets, views. It's not what this is about. You ask any CMO or you talk to any CTO, and there's this great battle now over who is going to get bigger budget on technology investment. We've all heard that CMOs will outspend CIOs in the next couple of years around this technology investment. So you have marketing automation, you have social media management systems, you have big data tools, what have you. We're using these tools and these platforms in a way that doesn't necessarily allow us to grow, to learn. Talk to IT, well, are we ready for this? My favorite one of this is 0% of those will say, we know what we need to do and our staff is coming up to speed. Wow. That's scary. And the same is true for CMOs. No one's really ready to understand this. And if you think about it, when you bring in information that is going to impact the direction of your business, the future of your business, it's not just about how you bring it in and process information. It's about what you do with it. And that quote about changing ourselves first means that we have to think about what's broken today. I work with an organization that was so excited to get into social media. And they brought in all the executives, and they made this big pitch about what they were going to do with Facebook and Twitter to make their brand matter in 2014. And then I said, well, I'm just going to put this out there. No one actually likes you. If you look up your brand right now, it's horrible. It's actually scary horrible. And then if you ask employees if they're happy working here, they're not. You have data that shows you right now that 65% of your workforce is disengaged. And now we're talking about jumping into social to celebrate what? Fix the processes, the systems, the things that are contributing to the problem before you can make resolutions about being social. You're trying to bring data in, you're trying to build strategies that don't connect to business goals or outcomes without a vision for what this means, why this matters. Bringing data in, introducing strategies outbound will only be as effective as they are strategic. And this is why we have to take a step back and realize that new roles are needed to make this information matter. New processes are needed in order to not create a bunch of binders or dust collectors around these insights. And that takes vision, right? That takes change management, which isn't the sexiest of terms at all. But someone has to be that person to say, wait a minute, why are we even doing this? Still Boyd, are you here? Yes, sir. All right, so this is a real near and dear friend of mine. And we had a great conversation recently. He published this into a quote that made me sound smart, so I appreciate that, Stowe. Thank you. But the idea was that we're taking everything that's new and wonderful, and we're getting excited around it, and we're having conferences to talk about it and how to process this. And we're going back and we're fighting the good fight. But what ends up happening for the most part is that we're stuffing this technology, these tools, these opportunities in the same old processes where we're actually not doing anything new. It just looks new. The foundation for social business is that you are able to invent or reinvent to make your business matter and to compete for a consumer, which, by the way, isn't the one that we've always known, right? This is changing. It always changes. The landscape of consumerism changes. It's just sort of accelerating right now. I call it accidental narcissism, but just look at how people use their smartphone and Instagram, right? The two best friends anyone ever had. The selfie. It's fantastic. We all do it. You're trying to market to someone that is creating an ecosystem around themselves. The technology that's available to them, the social channels, the tools, the devices, are only empowering them to be at the center of their own universe. Trying to connect with someone in this world, in this stream, means that it's not just going to have you appear in these new channels. Something has to happen that makes you matter in these channels. This is why I believe relevance is the future. I organize this conference in October here in New York called Pivot Conference. And each year I'll ask a question of all the businesses. Do you think you understand who this customer is? And in 2011, almost 80% of them said yes. And then I would ask them, have you asked these customers or have you researched these customers to see what it is they actually do want, what it is they expect, and how they want to be engaged? And the numbers flopped almost perfectly. No, we haven't. It's a great assumption then. I have experience. I'm in this position because I've earned it. Of course I know who these customers are. And we have all of these new channels and platforms to reach them based on how I know they want to be reached. But then in 2012, that number dipped significantly. People were starting to realize, like, well, maybe I don't. And some of you who are parents in this room, I mean, you see it with your kids. They don't even watch television. And if they do, it's on an iPad or a laptop. And this on-demand generation is going to significantly require things to be different in terms of the touch points, in terms of the customer journey, how you reach them, how you move them along, and how you keep them loyal. You have this married to a group of consumers who are learning how to be digital, but they're always going to be analog first. You have to bring these worlds together in a way that's meaningful and fluid, not just to them, but also to you and the processes that help them. Think about that word silent everybody throws around, and I'm going to break down those walls. It exists because it can. It's the way that businesses have always worked. Each one of those departments are responsible for a stage in the customer lifecycle. So what happens in a world where each one of those stages, each moment of truth, if you will, is now connected and transparent? They don't know the difference between customer service and sales and marketing from an outside-in perspective. They understand that it's just one organization. Yet none of those departments are working with one another. They're not talking to one another. And then you see some crazy stuff like this when you ask customers, well, hey, is it cool if we're listening to you talk about social media? And you get this surprising number that says, we think that intrudes on my privacy. I want to talk about you, but I don't want you to listen. But I do want you to listen when I have a problem. All right, great. But But yet the people that are listening that don't have a problem, it's a great example of Lufthansa recently, or British Airways, where the people that are running social media have no power over the problem that exists in social media because it's run by the marketing department, and marketing is not talking to customer service. So they're taking tweets and they're literally emailing them to people. Can you deal with this? And in the Lufthansa example, somebody kept following up on their Facebook page to say, so are we going to deal with this? We're working on it. Kept following up until finally the marketing team said, it's out of our hands. We tried. There's nothing we can do. And so what really, when I got to think about this for a moment, when that social media community manager, whatever that person was, hit go, publish, what were they thinking? Like, this is going to say, all right, he'll be happy with this response. I mean, who wouldn't be? I'm absolved of any responsibility. I feel better about myself. Beer time. Instead, it becomes a crisis. So social business is connected by, first, a purpose to do the right thing. Second, the ability to champion inside about bringing people together who are going to solve that problem. Think about that Oreo real-time marketing example. For one moment, the right people were in the right room working together to do the right thing. I actually look at this, probably not in the most popular views, but as an attorney, I think that a lot of this is about building a case, gathering evidence, and presenting in a way that makes people understand that you don't have to care about Facebook, but you just have to see the opportunity for your customer or for your employee and how that impacts business. Because people will say, I will give you anything you want in terms of data, information, my digital cookies, my digital footprints or breadcrumbs, whatever you want to call it. But I want something back. I want value, right? There's a reason why people, well, for the time being, will pay an incredible premium for an Apple product because they believe they're going to get value and a good experience back from it. Now you can also get more than good experiences. You can get iPhone colors. Fantastic. But it's that exchange, mutual benefit, this idea that if I take something, I give something. And social is more than just how we use technology. It's a perspective or philosophy on how we work together. You hear about everybody saying that data is going to be Moneyball. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to be able to select baseball players. Kidding. But it's not about that. It's not about trying to wrap all of this into predictive marketing, into predictive analytics. It's going to happen, of course. But think about how it starts with a more human code, this idea of what I call a human algorithm. Understanding that data is going to happen anyway, sure. But there's got to be a human being in front of it that makes sense of it. If you've ever watched this show called Undercover Boss, I love this show, by the way. And to me, it's powered by this human algorithm. I love this show even though every single one of them has the same ending. But it's great because there's a sense of validation for all of us as we watch that, saying, I had this boss. I just wish you knew. And what makes it amazing is this gift of empathy that they're always given. And the words that they always share, there's crying, there's celebration, there's applause, is, I forgot what it was like to be a customer. I forgot what it was like to be an employee, right? All day, every day, I report to shareholders, I report to stakeholders, I live in a world of spreadsheets and PowerPoint graphics, and I'm making decisions about the bottom line, efficiency scales, optimization, whatever. That's the world they live in. And then we come to them and say, oh man, we gotta get you to tweet. All the CEOs are tweeting. Why should I care about it? This human algorithm is the ability to take all of these interesting trends and be able to make sense of it from a macro level, right? To better understand that this information isn't about building a command center and trying to look cool and bringing people to tour around them. It's about applying a human filter that evokes empathy, which then inspires meaningful strategy and transformation that isn't just about how you talk outside, it's about how you work together inside. It's this confluence of data science and social science. I believe that in the near future, organizations are going to need to hire digital anthropologists to better understand human behavior. Because we're not changing and our touch points aren't opening and closing just because Twitter and Facebook exist. Those are byproducts of the fact that we are empowered because we have access to information. And as we have access to information, we're more connected and we're more empowered and we're more expected in terms of what we want from businesses. And these stages of understanding allow us to not just learn, but to apply that learning into something that matters, right? Where information becomes intelligence, and intelligence becomes ideas, and then ideas lead to interaction. And that interaction, whether you know it or not, is going to influence behavior, for better or for worse. So make it for better. It's just going to influence behavior. It's already influencing behavior. So I think that our opportunity here is to think about this as reality, but to apply it into the language of the C-suite. To say, remember, I was talking about trying to get this company to move more strategically into Facebook and Twitter and maybe some Pinterest action because everybody's doing it. Maybe step back to realize that in each one of those 4 moments of truth, the data that's at your fingertips will actually show you to what extent they are being influenced in a world that doesn't always start with Google search. Because when you're trying to make a decision and you use Google, first of all, the #1 device for a lot of connected customers these days are either a smartphone or an iPad. And what comes back in a Google search? Websites. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's 2013, and we have yet to figure out how to make a website look good and usable on a mobile screen. And I'm not talking about responsive design. I'm talking about, look, you use that device, when a website comes back, first of all, it sucks. Second, the copy on the website is written for the person who approved it, not the person who's hitting the page. And then lastly, it's you talking at someone when in fact, this is one of the reasons why YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. Because you'll use it because it works on a mobile screen, and it saves you a whole bunch of time when someone else can tell you or talk at you what you're looking for, right? How many of you in the room have actually read a product manual recently? Probably nobody, because it's easier to go to YouTube to find out how to use something because someone else tells you how to use it. I just went to this magical world of blenders recently to understand, first, why Vitamix is a church or a religion, and second, how to make flour. Easier than reading the manual. The point is this: understanding how people are getting information and how they're acting upon that information, where they're going, and what that journey actually looks like. You start to see this experience flow, and you start to see the points of influence aren't the things that we actually think they are. We're putting huge budgets towards email marketing and website marketing. My goodness. I mean, some of the businesses I work with, I say, so why when we know people are asking this question, and this is one of the pages that are served up to answer that, because it doesn't really answer, it's horrible, we're not helping ourselves. How do we get that changed? Oh, man. Have you ever tried to get your website updated? Some of these people have 18-month queues to update their website. Can't. What I want to leave you with in the 34 seconds that I have left is this. I actually believe that when we celebrate companies and how they're becoming social businesses, we tend to look at an organization that we think has figured it out. But I'm here to tell you that with every report that I publish, I learn that businesses do not have it figured out. It just looks great. So that white screen you were looking at is actually a blank canvas. And this is why I believe that the future of social business starts with you taking a fresh approach. You carving your own best practice, your own case study. Your customer relationships and your employee relationships are unique to you. The problems that you have to contend with are unique to you. How you solve them are unique to you. Seek inspiration in how other businesses are solving the problem, but solve your problems because you know what they are and that you're hitting them specifically. Change starts with you. This is an opportunity for you to actually define what a social business means, to make it more relevant, more important, not just to your customer base and not just because your brand matters more because it's being mentioned in terms of word of mouth and share of voice, but because it actually matters to a different type of customer, which, by the way, is also a different type of employee that's coming up. Just make it matter. Thank you very much. Yeah, do you have any questions? I'll come back to make it easier for you. Yes, okay, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Next question.
What's the blender you recommend after all that?
Oh, man, okay, so there was the Ninja, the Bullet,
Ninja's good.
all kinds, right? So it turned out to be the Vitamix. And the hot soup was really a selling factor. Thank you for asking. And I did learn how to make flour, and I made pizza with that flour. Fantastic. Next question. Not all at once. I'm only human.
Brian, what are some examples of some businesses that have made a cultural turnaround and sort of embraced their social business and their interaction with customers?
Okay, there are several. I'm gonna use one that I'm sure is often shared, but I'm gonna tell a story around it that I don't think is shared. One of the favorites is Virgin America. One, they had the opportunity to start from scratch. However, I won't say the name of the airline, but I am unfortunately stuck to them because that's where all my miles are. And I was in a great mood one day, and I walked up to the gate and asked the agent, just wanted to know how much time I had before we started the board because I was hungry. Walked up with a great smile and got this greeting that was something like this. What? I never actually asked the question. But it bothered me. And when I landed where I was going, I hopped in the shuttle to the hotel, and in that shuttle, I shared it with the Virgin America crew. And so, I don't know what got into me, but I was sitting in the front seat of this van, they were sitting in the back seat, and somewhere along the way, I just turned around like a kid. So this happened, and I'm really bothered by it, and I'm telling the story, and before I can even finish, one of the flight attendants like, You know what that is right there? That's unhappiness. That person probably cared once, but now they're just disgruntled, hate their job, but they got great perks and benefits, and they're just not going to quit. So then I said, well, what's different about you then? Why do people say that you're one of the most celebrated? You study this too, right? You can look at any airline, and there's only two that people really love in America, and that's JetBlue and Virgin. And they start talking about how they all work together. They're from the top down. It's a cultural thing. But then they'll talk about things like we don't shut overhead bins. We quietly close them because we want your experience to be fantastic. All of these things are explained, and then the captain sort of leans forward in a captain-like way, very stoic. Well, it's more than that. We do offsites together. We talk about the importance of people, and we want you to feel as great coming on and great leaving, so we all collectively invest in that. And then they published the liminal report. I don't know if you read this, but the liminal report was how do you take this culture, this idea of making people happy and creating great experiences, and apply it to every touch point. So how does that come alive on the phone? How does that come alive on the website? How does that come alive in social? And it's this cultural aspect then that is enlivened through technology. but reinforced every day through this customer experience philosophy where CX isn't about technology. CX is actually about philosophy. And we measure success based on how people actually feel. So one of the things, by the way, that I love about this example is that while a lot of us are using Net Promoter Score to just sort of look at how well we're doing, they're not. They're actually looking at something that sort of loose, and I'll call it shared experience value, where it's not about would you recommend us, it's are you doing that right now? And if I looked at all of the conversations taking place across every network, do they collectively represent a shared experience value that would be the equivalent of a strong Net Promoter Score? It's culture, vision, technology just becomes an enabler. So with that, there's a long answer. Thank you very much.